Hello and welcome to Patient Talk. Today I'm joined by Dr. Leo Brashberger and Dr. Diran Bhatt to talk about DNA. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So, can I start with you, Dr. Leo? What is DNA and how does it impact our health in general?
Well, DNA is the building blocks of every single cell in our body, like literally every cell. And it's really forming a whole new revolution. It's really transforming both healthcare and wellness as there's most governments and large universities around the world are studying DNA and we're getting much greater insights about what it does, how it affects us. And today what we're talking about is how it affects us in relation to diet and weight management and weight loss. And what we've seen through the research is that it affects things like appetite, fat storage, how we process certain foods. And this is really valuable information to help us make better lifestyle and wellness decisions.
And is there a difference between inherited and genetic conditions?
No, they're effectively synonyms. Yeah, so DNA. In fact, there's four letters that we all get, and I won't get too technical, but the DNA is one of four letters. We get one letter from our mother and one letter from our father, and that's what makes up the DNA that's in all our cells and explains how every part of our body operates. So an inherited condition or a genetic condition are effectively the same thing, yes? And in fact, we don't do this, but many companies and universities around the world do genetic research into inherited diseases. So that's actually another whole area of medicine. So there's two of one of the same, Kitty.
And what is the fat gene? How is it discovered? Is it controversial?
Well, no, it's not controversial. No, it's not controversial. Look, we all have 25,000 genes. In fact, every human being on the planet has the same 25,000 genes, that gene itself. And the fat gene, which is known as the FTO gene, is one of those 25,000 genes. But what's interesting about each of the genes that we can have changes in those genes. So there's different variations of that gene. And some of those changes can be good for some people and not so good. And the fat gene or the FTO gene, what's been researched of late is that gene is responsible for us feeling full after we eat a meal. And if you don't have sort of the best version of that gene, if I can use that terminology, which I personally do not have, what that means is that people don't feel full. They're not getting the correct signal into their brain from their stomach that they've eaten enough. And those people, and me included, I tend to snack and graze a lot and eat more than my body actually needs. And so it's it's definitely not controversial, and it's very well studied. In fact, of all the 7 genes that we look at, that is the most studied with the most evidence around the world.
And what are the risks of cholesterol and triglycerides?
Oh, that's interesting. I'll let Dura and Dr. Butt respond to that.
Yeah, it's a slightly related but separate topic, so that you take the clinical aspects of lipid processing, and that is lipids includes cholesterol and triglycerides. They're all clinical parameters which are significant for all of us. We don't through this approach of genomic testing, we don't seek to measure the values of those for individual patients, but we can, through genomic testing, shed a lot of light on the genetic predisposition to any variations in cholesterol levels or triglyceride levels, which may not be beneficial to people. So it's a good starting point to build upon a better understanding, and then possibly some actionable sort of clinical pathology, as we call it, if people were really interested in those specific elements of weight management.
And if you have the fat gene, what can you actually do about it?
Well, I think as Leo said, it's not so much a question of having the fat gene. All of us have the FTO gene, but it is a question of which version of it we have, so that in the test that we provide through My DNA, we actually classify 7 different genes, and the FTO gene is just one of those. And then we categorize those into the versions that are unique to each individual. So there are certain versions which will be beneficial for weight loss, some which will be neutral, and some which will be shall we say, detrimental to weight loss. But that does not mean that you can not lose weight or that you may find it, completely easy. It is, in fact, an indicator to say, have a close look at your diet and the composition of your diet to say which is the ideal diet for me. And the way we do that actually is through a clinical algorithm developed at MyDNA. We can actually determine what macronutrients for each individual are following such a test. So in other words, how much of your diet should be carbohydrate, how much should be protein, how much should be fat. And then having that initial macro breakdown, then we can drill down further and say, we can manage that and help you manage that through suggested portion sizes of certain kinds of foods. And then from that, we drill down into specific recommendations for meal plans for those kind of people who do want that detailed support. And this is provided through an internet portal, or it can actually be provided through a written report as well.
I was just going to cut in. I was just going to quickly mention, though, because we talked about me earlier, because I don't have the most advantageous version of this fat gene, Kitty, what the report for me says that I need to have a diet every day that has a higher percentage of protein. And if I have a diet that's rich in protein, I will feel full quicker and have a less chance of overeating, which I have a propensity to do, and that can help break my sort of weight challenges, for want of a better word. So it's quite specific and personalised advice.
So there is a sort of sweeping statement in terms of if you have, as you mentioned earlier, a bad version of the fat gene, there is a sort of classic diet and exercise regime that you would suggest.
That's right, and that's just for one of the 7 genes we look at. So there are more genes that have been studied than just the 7, but we're very focused on really only analysing genes where there's something actionable and meaningful we can tell people that they can enhance their lifestyles with, or their diet or their weight with. Yes, I mean, what I say to my team, we've got a large clinical team, that if there's not so what, there's no use telling someone something about their genetics or their DNA if there's no so what to follow. Like, so what do I do about that once I know that? And so we're very focused on having these meaningful conversations with people.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.